What is up, everybody? It is your boy Isaac of the Dead back with another video. So, I thought I would actually start and do something new today. So, in light of 28 years later coming out in a few weeks, which I am actually really excited for, of all the movies that are coming out in the next couple months over the summer, I am legitimately the most excited for 28 years later because I am a fan of the 28 days later and 28 weeks later franchise, including the comic books too, the very few of them that there are. But I thought today I would actually make a video. Now, I want to do more videos like this down the line where it's more like, I edit them and do video essays. But for right now, I'll stick to this non-edited sort of review because today I rewatched 28 Days Later with my aunt, uncle, and my brother to sort of get our homework in to prepare for 28 years later. The first time I saw 28 Days Later was several years ago when I was living by myself, and that I did not expect to be scared shitless when I saw that movie. It's probably the scariest zombie movie I've ever seen. So we're gonna get into it. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but this is basically a retro review. It's looking back on it. It's giving you my perspective on it. I mean, there's not much more for me to tell you about it, just other than my experience and what I gained from it as a film. And I will be doing many more videos like this with other retro content. So, 28 Days Later follows the character of Jim, being played by Cillian Murphy, as he wakes up from a coma and finds the UK, London, basically completely eradicated. There's no people around. It's very much similar to The Walking Dead, and in my opinion, I don't know if it's for sure fact because nobody's confirmed it, but I mean, let's be real here. You look at the time and date. Robert Kirkman 100% probably took inspiration from, if not ripped off, 28 Days Later whenever he had Rick Grimes come out of the hospital, come out of a coma in the hospital, along with a lot of the same themes of the "We Are the Walking Dead," and there's not much of a difference between the humans and the zombies, in the same manner that 28 Days Later does. There's not much difference between these rageful humans and the actual infected rage zombies. Now, talking about the rage zombies, I call them rage zombies because calling them infected it feels like it's like, hey, why are you mispronouncing my pronouns or whatever the fuck, right? It's such a weird non-argument, but it's still a nerd debate, and fuck it, I love that kind of debate. I'd rather talk about the debate between zombie and infected because there's different types of zombies. Given that I am a huge fan of the Living Dead stuff, given the name Isaac of the Dead, I should make more zombie content, to be honest. But basically, the zombies or the infected in 28 Days Later, they're still alive, so they're not undead. They're not the living dead. They are infected. They can still sleep. They can still hunger. They still need to eat, which is actually one of their weaknesses, that they starve. And so one of the points of their weaknesses is how long until these rage-infected viral people starve. At that point, you have an easy W. You just got to outrun them, basically. Got to keep your cardio up, as they say in Zombieland. So Jim finds this girl, Selena, being played by Naomi Harris, with a group of scavengers. Things go wrong. They run into Brendan Gleeson, who plays Frank, and his daughter, Hannah. And they become sort of a surrogate family. And for probably a good 30 to 45 minutes of the movie, we get to see them as a unit. We get to see them as a family. And we get to be invested in these characters. And I think if there's one thing that I would say before watching this movie, if you're new to seeing this movie, this is not a through and through action zombie movie, right? It has a lot of slow moments. There's a lot of very slow moments, but not to the detriment of the film, because it's all about character development. It's about getting to know these characters. We get to see how Jim copes with the idea of a world that's turned to shit. Selena believes that since the world has ended, she has this nihilistic perspective about, oh, everything is shit now, so there's the best thing that we have to do is survive. There's no point in living. There's no point in being happy. While Jim's perspective is, Well, sure, we can still be happy. There's plenty of things to still be happy about. We're still alive. What more do you need to be happy about? And so it has this sort of battling ideology that, becomes a through line theme towards the end of the movie. It's about the character development of that. Then we see the most tragic part of the movie, which, in my opinion, is I took it personally. I took it very personally. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm tired. Yeah, I felt personally attacked. It was when Frank. So basically, Frank, Hannah, Jim, and Selena hear a recorded broadcast from military in the UK, and they're like, "Come to this blockade, and we'll protect you. We're the military." So they believe, Frank believes at least, that there's some hope, there's some protection, there's a silver lining, there's grass is greener on the other side, because the other option is staying in the apartment that he's in and either starving or having droughted to death because there's no rain, there's no running water, there's no power, there's no electricity. So you either end up starving to death or you end up dying of thirst. And so their option is either stay in the apartment and die, or take the risk and go out there and potentially die, but also potentially run into the military. They get out there, and Frank ends up, finding that the military is not there at the blockade. And he gets angry. He kicks a wall that has a infected above it with a crow picking out the infected's eyes. And one tiny little speckle droplet comes down into his eye, and Frank just goes berserk. He becomes a rage zombie. I took that shit personally because Frank he had so much heart. He was such a likable character, and that is something this movie does. It makes you like the characters. So that is something I praise about this movie. This has got to be, if not the most, one of the most influential and best zombie horror movies of the 21st century. And the only thing I think that tops it of all time is probably Night of the Living Dead, the original OG Romero Night of the Living Dead. 28 Days Later knocks it out of the park. Once we get past the part where Frank dies, we see the military come in. The military did exist. And so Christopher Eccleston, who runs the military, comes in. And so he takes in Jim and Selena and Hannah, and we find out that they've been surviving, and they believe that they're the last ones to survive, and they're going to try and rebuild the world. Well, they're keeping a infected chained up in their backyard, basically, to see how long it takes before he starves. What can you learn from these infected? Now, the infected are kind of like, they're sporadic in the movie. They don't show up that often, but when they do, you usually fear them. They're scary. They're runners. This is like the first zombie movie that started like the trend of running zombies. Where it's like, oh shit, they're fast now. And their eyes are bleeding, their mouths are bleeding. They're rabid animals. And they're like mini versions of the Hulk, where they don't want to just eat your brains and eat your flesh. They just want to beat the shit out of you until you die. Right? That's just all they're about. And the thematic through line about it is that it's the rage, the uncontrollable rage that we all feel as humans. It goes back to a primal nature. And so a part of that comes into Jim's character later down the line. I know I'm spoiling a lot here, but I just thought I'd just, because, the movie's been out for, 20 years? So if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry to tell you. But still, Jim goes through this metamorphosis of a docile man who is, he doesn't know what to do with himself in a world that has basically turned upside down. By the end of the film, he turns into a warrior he needs to be, a protector of the women that he's, with, Hannah and Selena. Because it turns out that the military guy, Christopher Eccleston, promised women to the soldiers in that compound that they were in, because they believed that without women, there was no future. So basically bringing the women there to be sex cattle. And so that was one of the most horrific parts of the movie, actually. So it was Jim's duty to protect the women from these, I guess you could say, horny pigs. And so that's just how the best way I could describe it, to be honest with you. But essentially, it became about Jim being responsible for the protection of these young women. And so there's a moment at the end there where Selena which there's a romantic dynamic between Jim and Selena. And so she believes that, you know, because of her own survival, she would not spend even a heartbeat killing Jim if it meant that she survived if he became infected, right? Well, whenever Jim saves her from one of the military guys, he's like, you know, shoving his thumbs into the dude's eyes and like plucking his eyeballs out. And Selena sees this and she's like, "Oh shit, he's an infected. He's a zombie." So she takes a machete and tries to go at him, but she can't do it. She can't do it because she secretly loves Jim. And Jim stops and he's like, "That took longer than a heartbeat, didn't it?" And so then they embrace each other, and the movie is just, the themes are poignant. The action is brutal and scary. This movie, it's the why I love it so much is because it's a movie that encapsulates almost every genre. You have horror, you have action, you have romance to some degree, you have interpersonal drama, you have stakes, you have motivations for your characters, you have character development, you have thematic elements that are poignant. You have a lot of things that make movies, you know, iconic, that make movies rewatchable, that make movies entertaining. It's because they're on a basic human level, something relatable. And so I can't stop singing the praises of this movie enough. And I hope that the happy ending that Jim gets, I won't spoil much more than that because there's nothing I could say that would replace the actual viewing of this movie. That's why I am recommending it to you, so that you will also view it. I do have to grant you a bit of advice, though. There was a time not too long ago where this movie was not being found on any streaming services. And now it's found on streaming services, but you have to pay for it. You have to rent it or buy it or whatever. Before, you just had to sail the high seas to get it, because even finding digital copies or physical copies was like costing you an arm and a leg. But still, I recommend this movie wholeheartedly. One of my favorite zombie movies of all time. And as much as I like 28 Weeks Later, it's not as strong. It relies more on jump scares than character development as compared to the first movie. But I digress. I just thought I would throw in my hat and say this is a recommended retros from Isaac of the Dead. 28 Days Later. Go check it out. It's an incredible movie. I don't really know what much more to say about it. Just, you know, enjoy it. It's fucking great zombie media. So, hope you like this video. I hope you like my little breakdown review, and I'll probably do a lot more videos like this in the future because I like talking nerd shit like this. This is my bread and butter here. So, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in a video very soon. Don't smoke crack.